add value to your business, or do you want to just be this administrative person?
And often, if you look at your talent team and the caliber of talent in your company, they correlate.
You could hire the best person for the job if they were in your candidate pool.
All these individual employees, one by one, together, their voices all come together to articulate the culture of the company.
This is hiring.
Hiring on all cylinders.
Hello, recruiting pals. It is with no small measure of excitement I announce Hiring on All Cylinders takes back to the airwaves from a bustling ballroom in Anaheim, California, where one of my favorite conferences, SourceCon, is in full swing. I hope you will forgive the background noise this episode. It's not exactly easy to find a quiet space, and we are broadcasting from the shiny Intello 10x10 booth while happy recruiters and sourcers network and at this very moment feast in the background. Joining me for this very special edition of HOAC is Katie Gechijian. She is the VP for Wealth and Investment Management, Talent Acquisition at Wells Fargo. She founded a truly unique sourcing support community. She's designed, or is in the process of designing, a robust diversity sourcing training procedure. She finished second out of 1,200 in this year's World's Greatest Sourcer competition. And she will be delivering a webinar for our Talent Powerhouse series on October 25th, focused on the tactics you need to build a diverse workforce. Katie, I'm so glad you're here.
Thanks, Rob. It's a pleasure to be with y'all, and it's awesome to be at SourceCon.
How do you like the show so far?
It's fun. This is my first time to visit,
right.
And it's really cool to see a community of folks that I've been reading and listening to for a lot of years, and then get to meet them in person. So
right.
Awesome.
So I would love for you to walk us through the Enterprise Sourcing Forum you put together at Wells Fargo, because I feel like there's not a lot of training and support opportunities out there for sourcers. So what was it that led you to start that?
Sure. So sourcing and understanding how to find people has always been a passion of mine. It's why I do this work. And because I really enjoy it. It's fun for me. It truly is something I kind of do in my spare time. And I had a lot of colleagues that would come up to me, in the hallway, over lunch, for conference calls, and say, how did you find that person? Or can you help me run this search? I need some help. And because I was getting so many of the same question, we started setting up time to get together, super informally, and just share how we found people. I would show them my screen and let them follow along of how I'm getting from point A to point B. And it grew. There was a huge need within Wells Fargo to have this type of training and to share it. And I kind of call it my work hobby. It's one of my favorite parts of my month, and it's grown from a call of literally 3 people to now about 125-ish.
Congrats.
That join. Yeah, thank you.
I love it. So what were some of those early questions that you were hearing a lot? You said that the same kind of things kept coming up.
And it really hasn't changed all that much, although I hope at least the folks that have been with us for a long time have progressed. But lots of questions around LinkedIn, lots of questions around Boolean search.
Right.
Those fundamentals that I think we take for granted, that people have a huge hunger for learning.
Right. So what is it that you hope they get out of the entire experience?
I want them to be better sourcers and not be afraid of information, not be afraid to search outside of where they normally would go, and be sure that they're being inclusive as they reach out to candidates and find new data sources so we truly can find the best talent.
Right. So I noticed that part of the process is in participating in this forum, you'll go out there and find people that are going to be good mentors for members and good speakers at some of your events. And the word you used was you looked for truly excellent sources to do that. What are those qualities of excellent sources when you're going out there and all right, who would be a really good person for this? What do you look for?
As I think about a sourcer, I think they are just infinitely curious. There's not much that they're not curious about or want to learn more about, and then want to share once they've learned it. So as a sourcer, it's that curiosity factor. And then for the people we're looking at for Wells Fargo, we're a 275,000 person team.
Right.
And we're looking for individuals that want to contribute and serve their local communities, but be part of an incredibly powerful financial services company.
So then what does the mentorship piece look like? what do sourcers look to from people who have been in the industry a little longer and can kind of give them some guidance?
So an interesting thing about sourcing to me is that it's almost a trade. There's an art and a science.
Yeah.
But you have to go beyond the process to really do this work. And so I think people who are newer to the industry are looking for mentors that can guide them through the art. What are those subtle and not so subtle clues that a candidate gives you when they're ready to talk or they're ready to walk?
Right.
And making sure that we catch all of those and use them in the most positive way to get them to Wells Fargo.
This is something that I've referred to as mapping the talent market, which is like taking this deep dive into various market intelligence to determine like where is all the talent in this field, where are they geographically, where are they career-wise, so then you can kind of figure out, all right, how does this affect my hiring goals? So I'm curious, like, how, like, what is the data set that you look at? How do you kind of back your way into that? And then B, why is that useful?
Sure. So the how is really digging in and doing those searches to figure out who's relevant in that competitive landscape. So what companies, what do they call them? What jobs do they have posted? These are your competitors.
Right.
And then using that, search, fall down 20 rabbit holes of this person worked here and they were recruited from company X. And, of these 5 or 10 companies that are all within, what I'll circle and say is our competitors, what trends do you see? And where are these people? What do they call themselves? Where do they go? And really kind of get that narrow target of who those competitors are.
Right.
And then using that information, get the names. Like search in Google and search in every tool that you have access to. Hopefully Intello is one of those.
Plug.
But use every tool that you have at your disposal to create that universe. And I usually tell my hiring managers, if they give me good information, I can probably get to 85 to 95% of that universe. And the reason I want that is because as a recruiter, if you tell me I want to hire this, I want to find you the best person. And, a point of pride for me is that I can't tell you we've got the right people or that we're doing the right work until I know who all those people are.
Yes.
So if you're only reaching out to, this small sliver of that universe, are you really doing the best job you could as a recruiter to create an inclusive pool?
Right.
Or to really scan the market and hire the very best person?
Right. So, like, there's always this really tired response, like, well, why can't you just hire the best person for the job? And it's like, well, you have to have a search that possibly includes all those people. So then, in addition to creating a more inclusive environment, or at least a more inclusive hiring process, why else is that useful to have sort of that sense of an entire talent ecosystem for a specific role?
Mm-hmm. So I think it's helpful for our hiring managers because I'm always amazed at their business acumen. I mean, they know all about their team and they know all about the business that they're cultivating with others, but a lot of times they have no awareness of who is at their competitors, how their businesses tick.
Right.
What structure, what trends, and beyond recruiting, having this information makes them that much more astute in the market to be able to win. Win business, win the best hires, and make sure we're industry leaders. I like having just really informal meetings with my hiring managers, both with the people that they want to hire, and then with people in the market that are in similar roles. They can give us great intel just over coffee.
Okay, so you, a hiring manager, and an ideal candidate, even if that person's not in process?
Yes.
Cool.
Because people love flattery.
Yep.
It's a very flattering call to say, we are impressed with the work you're doing. We'd love to sit down. We realize you may have no interest in joining us today, but we just want to get to know you better.
Love to pick your brain.
And yeah, by doing that, people really open up. The guard comes down.
Yep.
It may not be interested today, but it's it is effort that is going to pay off in the future.
Right, you're building a relationship there. And even if they don't end up in process, you still have all this insight. So I had never heard of that. It's really, really interesting, the idea of looping in a hiring manager with another candidate. Usually when recruiters talk about like the hiring manager tango sort of diplomacy game you play to make sure that they help you prepare for the roles you're hiring for, that you're like looking at the right people, that doesn't really include that. So like what, in your relationship with the hiring manager, like how has that helped? How has that sort of like maybe reframed their conception of a role? Has that happened?
Yeah, I mean, I like to put them front and center because ultimately no prospect is coming to work for Katie. They're going to work for my hiring manager. So if that relationship isn't there, my chance of success is a lot lower.
Right.
And they want the relationship with the hiring manager. I feel like an accessory to the process.
Right. Exactly. A lot of talent says that like, you know, they want to speak immediately to the person that they would be working for or under. And so you have like a facilitative role in connecting them. And like in this case, it's like an actual like literal like connection that you're making, which I think is fascinating. So then what other advice do you have for recruiters like to, I guess, manage the hiring manager relationship? Because I know it's something that a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, I mean, I think find a way to positively make them the center. Because ultimately, you have that job, you have the requisition to serve them. So put them front and center, understand who they are, what their needs are, what they need in talent, and then let them sell it. And by leveraging that, I think you really increase your chances for success. And it, like you said, it builds that relationship, and they remember the efforts on their behalf that the recruiter makes.
Right. So Kat will kill me if I don't ask you this. You have this this webinar coming up with us end of October. There is a link to sign up in the episode description of this episode. You want to give us a little teaser trailer of what you're going to be talking about?
Absolutely. And I'm really excited about the topic. I'll be talking about diversity and specifically efforts at Wells Fargo to become a more diverse workforce. In doing research for this, because real time I'm still researching,
right.
I'm amazed by the effort that we, and I say we as a talent community, an industry, have put into explaining the why of diversity and the benefits of a diverse workforce. And then amazingly, there is so little about the how.
Right.
And for us to be successful, for this work to become real, you have to have the tactics.
Yes.
There has to be a how, or else it falls flat.
It's just lip service.
Yeah. So until we invest in the how, it's still just kind of we really need to do this, and maybe it'll happen. There's no maybes. It has to happen. So I want to give people real time, walk away from the webinar tactics to be effective and really be able to influence making their workforce more diverse.
I love it because that seems pretty common. A lot of companies are saying, okay, it's important. They're appreciating the what, or the why. Like it's important for us to have a representative workforce. Like, and then they'll release their diversity numbers and say we are like making strides to do this. Like, well, are you? And so then the other half of that is, all right, we've made the decision. We can all agree this is a good idea, right? Now what? Without taking too much away from the webinar, what are some of these like strategies to kind of implement that process at your organization?
You know, I think there's a good bit as far as starting from a very inclusive pool, making sure that you start at the right place so that you're not beaten before you ever begin.
Right.
And certainly how you structure your search is important, although I think there's merits to demographics. Do you use demographics and narrow targeting versus do you just really focus on the right pool? So a little discussion around that. And
what are some mistakes that people make in their, like in the beginning, in the search process when they first start, that maybe is leading to a pool that's not inclusive?
I think that's where data quality comes in. You know, you have a responsibility to make sure that where you are looking not only has the right candidates, but really has efforts around identifying diversity.
Yes.
And so if that is not a big component of how data flows to them, then you can have no expectation that you're going to find diversity within that data.
Right. So true. I want to resurrect a segment that I've done a few times that I really like, and I didn't send this to you beforehand, so forgive me for springing it on you, but it's called elephant hunting. And the idea is most recruiters can tell you this story of a candidate that, they spent a long time recruiting, or it was a really hard role, or they just they played the long game, and then it was all multiple touches over a long period of time, and they finally got this perfect hire. Do you have a story like that?
Goodness, and how. My favorite recent one is a woman I worked with who we pulled from Australia, and not only helping her on the culture of Wells Fargo and really walking her through what she could expect as a team member, but then also navigating visa issues, immigration, a trip to and from Australia, pre-hire.
Right.
Things that get really, really complicated when someone isn't actually on payroll quite yet.
Yeah.
But I probably spent 40 hours with her by phone in a week. Now, granted, I sounded a lot better than I sound today.
You sound great.
But we did. We invested. We knew each other. I was checking on her for a couple months after just to make sure she was having a good day, because we'd become friends in the process.
Yes.
And it was really gratifying to see her get to the bank and become successful.
I love it. And in that case especially, you're asking her to, uproot her life and move to the other side of the planet, which is a big ask. So then, of course, she's going to have, just all manner of questions. And that actually got me thinking, what is the role of recruiters in onboarding? Because they manage the relationship from the outset. Usually, you're going to be that person's first point of contact, their first impression of the company. And then, of course, you have other roles to fill that you move on to. But this person, as in the case with the woman you just explained, you have this relationship built. So then, do you take that role on? Are you involved in onboarding, and should other recruiters be more involved in onboarding?
Yeah, I think recruiting is certainly an ambassador to make sure that the people that they've invested in and gotten to the bank feel that same amount of love and excitement as they actually, become part of the company.
Right.
So I think that connectivity is really important. Fortunately, I am not directly involved in onboarding, but there's a lot of touch points between my team and all of the different teams that go into bringing a new employee into Wells that help me make it manageable and ensure that new hire's got everything that they need so they can be up and running their first day.
I love that you described recruiters as ambassadors, because as you were explaining that, I'm starting to envision the network. Like you were explaining, okay, we have this really important, close relationship with hiring managers, and then we want to make sure that the people we hire are successful and want to stay here a long time, and that this job serves their career goals. So then you are connected to the whatever the talent management portion of your organization is, and then you're probably wanting to stay close with individual contributors who are going to be interviewing, because you're going to be preparing
and
them.
then referrals in the future.
And exactly.
Your point earlier, you really are a facilitator, and I think the more a recruiter views their role as facilitating conversation, and then the search side, this is such fun work. It's very gratifying work, at least for me, and that focus on facilitation, making life easy for the hiring manager, making it easier on that candidate to say yes, and keep inviting both sides into the conversation, really helps people to feel at ease and comfortable and able to say, yes, I do want to continue. So,
Katie, I love the idea, recruiters as ambassadors, facilitators, making sure that they are part and parcel with several teams, not just their own. Perhaps they touch more teams and more people at an organization than any other role, I think. Like, you are going to see everyone that comes in. It's really difficult. The more I learn about this industry, it's so difficult to overstate the importance of talent and recruitment. So this has been really fascinating. Our webinar is going to be great. It's all focused on diversity training and the actual how. So stop talking the talk and start walking the walk when it comes to your diversity recruitment plan. And you're going to walk us through that. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been a blast.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. Have a great day.
And then the link to Katie's webinar is in the description. It's on October 25th. It's going to be awesome. Don't miss that. To all of you out there in podcast land, I've been Rob Stevenson. Have a spectacular week. Happy hunting.